gonna start competition. First team on the boards, Carter and Conno. For execution, 5.5, 4, 4, 4. For synchro, 3, 3.5, 3, 4, 4. Andrew and Henry. Execution, 6.5, 6, 5.5, 5.5. For synchro, 6, 6.5, 6, 6.5, 6. Elise en Lira. For execution, 3.5, 3, 4.5, 4. For synchro, 5, 4, 4.5, 3, 5.5. Sarah and Agatha. Execution, 7, 7.5, 5.5, 6. For synchro, 7.5, 7.5, 7, 7, 7. Rosalie en Clara. Execution, 1, 3, 4.5, 5.5. For synchro, 2, 2, 2.5, 1.5, 1. Viva en Ziva. Execution, 3.5, 4, 4, 3.5. For synchro, 4, 5.5, 3.5, 4, 5. Theodora en Bianca. execution, 6.5, 6, 5, 5. For Synchro, 6.5, 7, 6.5, 7, 6. Clara en Antonie. For execution, 7.5, 7.5, 5, 4.5. For Synchro, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6.5. Mia and Dea. For execution, 5.5, 5.5, 5, 5.5. For Synchro, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 6.5, 4.5. Round 2. Carter and Connor. Execution, 6, 6, 5.5, 6.5. For Synchro, 5, 5, 6, 6.5, 6. Andrew and Henry. For execution, 7, 6.5, 6.5, 5.5. For Synchro, 7, 6.5, 7, 8, 6.5. Elise en Lira. For execution, 5, 4.5, 5.5, 5. For Synchro, 6.5, 6.5, 7.5, 6.5, 7. Sarah en Agathe. For execution, 6, 7, 5.5, 6. For Synchro, 6.5, 6.5, 6.5, 6.5, 7. Rosalie en Clara. execution, 4.5, 5, 3.5, 4. For Synchro, 0, 1.5, 2, 2. Viva en Ziva. For execution, 4.5, 4.5, 4, 5.5. For Synchro, 5, 5, 5.5, 4, 6. Theodora and Bianca. For execution, 6, 6, 5, 6. For Synchro, 6.5, 6.5, 7, 6.5, 6. Clara en Antonie. For execution, 3, 2, 5, 5.5. For Synchro, 4.5, 3.5, 4.5, 4, 6. Mia and Dea. Execution, 4.5, 4, 4, 4.5. For Synchro, 5, 4.5, 4.5, 5, 6. Round 3. Carter Golo. For execution, 6.5, 6.5, 4.5, 5. For Synchro, 6, 5.5, 6.5, 6, 5. Andrew and Henry. What mark do you want to give? 5.5? For execution, 6, 7, 4.5, 5.5. For Synchro, 5.5, 5, 5, 5, 4.5. Elise and Lira. 4.5, 4.5. For Synchro, 5.5, 5, 5.5, 6, 5.5. Sarah en Agatha. For execution, 6, 6, 5, 5.5. For Synchro, 6.5, 6, 6, 6, 5.5. Rosalie en Clara.
Sorry, missed my flight. Won't be able to make it. So,
For execution, 5, 5.5, 3.5, 3.5. For Synchro, 5, 5.5, 5, 7, 5. Vive en Ziva. For execution, 5.5, 6, 4, 5.5. For Synchro, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, 3.5, 5. Theodora en Bianca. For execution, 4, 4, 4.5, 5. For Synchro, 4, 3.5, 4, 5, 5. Clara en Antonie. For execution, 5, 5, 2, 4. For Synchro, 3.5, 3.5, 2, 3.5, 3.5. Mia en Dea. For execution, 3, 2, 5, 5.5. For Synchro, 4, 4, 3.5, 5, 4. Round 4. Carter en Cora.
Oh yeah.
execution 6656 for Synchro 5, 3.5, 4.5, 5, 4. Andrew and Henry.
On the show, get ready now, go, cat, go, don't you step on my blue suede shoe. Well, you can do it.
For execution 5.5, 5, 5, 4 for Synchro 6, 6.5, 6, 7, 6.
My name all over the place.
Elise and Lira. Execution 4.5, 4.5, 5, 5.5 for Synchro 4.5, 5, 4, 6, 5. Sarah and Agatha. Execution 7, 7, 5.5, 6 for Synchro 6.5, 7, 5.5, 7, 6.5. Rosalie and Clara. Five, 4.5 for execution, and for Synchro 4, 4.5, 4, 5, 4.5. Viva and Siva. Execution 5, 6, 4.5, 6 for Synchro 5, 6, 5.5, 6.5, 5.5. Theodora and Bianca. Five, 6, 6 for execution, and for Synchro 6.5, 5.5, 6, 7, 6.5. Clara and Anthony. For Synchro, 4.5, 5, 5, 5.5, 7. Mia and Dea. Execution 4, 4, 5, 4.5. For Synchro 4, 4, 4.5, 7, 5.5. Round 5. Carter and Cobra. Execution 6, 5, 4, 4. For Synchro 3.5, 4.5, 3, 4, 4.5. Andrew and Henry. For execution 6, 5, 6.5, 6. For Synchro 6, 6, 6.5, 6.5, 5. Elisa and Lira. For execution 7, 7, 4.5, 5.5. For Synchro 6, 6.5, 7, 6.5, 7. Sarah and Agatha. Execution 6.5, 6.5, 4.5, 5. For Synchro 5.5, 6, 4.5, 5.5, 5.5. Rosalie and Lara. Execution 5.5, 5, 5.5, 7. For Synchro 5, 6, 5, 5, 3.5. Vive en Ziva. execution 6.5, 6, 6, 5.5. For Synchro 6.5, 6, 7, 7, 6. Theodora and Bianca. Four and a half, 5.5, 4.5, 3 for execution. And for Synchro, 4.5, 6, 5, 6.5, 5.5. Clara and Antonia. For execution, 4.5, 4, 5.5, 6. For Synchro, 5.5, 6, 4.5, 6, 6. Mia and Dea. Execution 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, 5. For Synchro 5, 5, 5, 6, 5. This was the last dive in this competition. Thank you judges, thank you secretaries. Next competition will start 10:56 for men and women Synchro on 3-meter board. Judges for that competition: execution 1, Morten Jansen Holst; execution 2, Massimiliano Pianese; execution 3, Anna van Kempen; execution 4, Philip Dever; Synchro 1, Sebastian Konecki; Synchro 2, Nathan Bakeland; Synchro 3, Diamantas Coronas; Synchro 4, Bo Damen; and Synchro 5, Patrick van der Meer. Referee will be Hanna Novotman. So the judges for next competition, which will start 10:56 on 3-meter board, Synchro men and women. Execution 1, Morten Jansen Holst; execution 2, Massimiliano Pianese; execution 3, Adam van Kempen; execution 4, Philip Dever; Synchro 1, Sebastian Konecki; Synchro 2, Nathan Bakeland; Synchro 3, Diamantas Coronas; Synchro 4, Bo Damen; and Synchro 5, Patrick van der Meer. En de referee Hanna Novotman.